Welcome to Digitally Creative. I'm your host, Vincent Ferrari, and joining me this week is one of my coolest Instagram online buddies. I have the one and only Kevin Mahaffey from Keebler Woodworks. What's going on, bud? How you doing?
Doing good. Good to be here.
I knew I was going to ask this question, so I figured I would just wait till we talked on the show. Where does the name come from? Where does Keebler Woodworks come from? Because you're kind of using the elf there, so I was curious.
Well, back in high school, one of my guys I was in band with says, "Man, you look like a Keebler elf, so I'm going to call you Keebler."
Okay.
And it stuck. So most of everything I do has Keebler in it.
Okay.
What's funny is when I worked on cars, I had someone print up a graphic. It had the Keebler elf. It says, "Welcome to Keebler's workshop. Let us put some elfin magic in your car," or something like that. I took it over to a parts guy, had them color it, and then I taped it up on the side of my toolbox.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that's where the name comes from. So Keebler Woodworks is because you were a Keebler elf in high school. I love it. I actually love it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what kind of stuff you're known for, and tell us a little bit. Give us your bio so we know a little more about you.
Well, basically, I worked on cars for almost 8 years. Started out, when I was growing up, I'd take toys apart, put them back together. I had an old bike. I took everything apart I could, put it back together. I would sit there and once I got tired of working on cars, I started driving a truck. My dad's driven his whole life, and, I started driving. I drive for Tyson Foods.
Oh, cool.
Now, I'm regional. I'm home every weekend. Well, when we bought our house, the dog needed a doghouse, so I started I built a doghouse. I mean, I built this thing big enough you could roll it and it won't come apart. It lasted for years. I had to build another one. Well, I got, once I started getting home every weekend, I got in on lumberjocks.com, and everyone's moved from there over to Craftesia and Digest and started doing swaps. Basically, It's like Secret Santa. You have a theme for the swap. You build something out of wood for it, throw in an extra, ship it to whoever you're shipping to. Someone else ships you their stuff. It's we do 3, 4, 5 a year. Every summer we do a barbecue beer swap. And I started doing all that. And I'm never too happy with my flat work, but I don't have a lot of time because I was doing Habitat for Humanity every Saturday. So 7:30 Saturday morning, I'd be on a job site for Habitat. I did the hard work, the framing, roofing, siding. When it came to the trim and finish, the paint, I moved over to another site. And then on Saturday, I still had to mow the lawn. I had a lady at church I was mowing the lawn for. And so my time was limited. I kind of dabbled in looking at getting into turning, and it's just the cost of it kept me away from it. One of the guys on Lumberjocks in the swap says, "Man, I've got 2 lathes. I'll sell you one for $350. Okay. Another guy makes his own carbide tools and a couple hundred, and then I make my own handles. I thought about it. Finally, I broke down and took a class at Rockler for turning. Turned a handle. Man, I love it. My wife gave me a pin turning class, bowl turning class for Christmas. I went to those. I got that $350. I was so looking forward to it that I was supposed to pick it up on a Saturday, and it turns out the guy's like, "Oh, I forgot, I'm going out of town. Can we do another?" It's like, "Man, hold on. You live just around the corner from my brother." I texted my brother, "Hey, can you front me this money and go pick this up?" And he picked it up, met me. So went down the route of doing pins. And then it's like, well, I could save some money not having to buy blanks if I go start casting my own.
Sure.
There goes the pressure pot, the air compressor, the resin, the molds.
A whole new can of worms opens right up now. Now you got to get all the resin stuff. You got to get all the stuff for making micarta, all that stuff.
Whole new rabbit hole. Got tired of cutting the pin blanks on my miter saw or my bandsaw. You know how the pin blanks ain't but a couple inches, and I got tired of my fingers being. So, okay, Now it's time for a bandsaw. Well, that's $750 later. There's a 17-inch grizzly in my shop.
Mhm.
And then it kind of turns into, okay, I wonder if this would work. So I have a buddy that lives down in Plano, and
Mhm.
said, "Hey man, here's a file from Fusion. Can you 3D print this for me?"
Oh, Jesus.
So he 3D printed it on his Ender. Yeah, I went and picked it up. We talked. I gave him a few handle blanks, paid for something else I got from him. Cast resin in it and turned it. There's my
Oh.
first 3D printer. Prusa Mini Plus, put it together, printed out some pin blanks, and then started in on, well, let's see what else I could print. Started printing stuff off Thingiverse, and then found Filament's Folly. And he does mainly Pokemon, and my stepdaughter's really into Pokemon. And so I started printing Pokemon and other stuff and didn't print much pin blanks. And then someone told me about Micro Center. They're $99 Ender. So there
Mhm.
goes an Ender on there. Get a new build plate for it because I didn't like the one that came with.
Nobody
I've
should keep the
since,
build plate it comes with.
yeah. I've since gone to th3d.com, got their easy ABL for auto bed leveling,
Mhm.
got their lighting kit, and put it on. And I've had to replace the extruder on the ender. In fact, right now it's down. I had a clog, fixed it, and then it bounces off the right side, so I've got to redo the firmware. But to do that, I've got to open up, get into the motherboard, figure out where I plug my lights in,
Yeah.
and I just haven't done it.
It's a lot of work, but the one thing I do love about the Ender, and I'm not a fan of the Ender in general, but the one thing I will say in its favor, and it's a big thing, is if you're a tinkerer and you want to tinker with it, it has a lot of potential if you're willing to put the time into it. You know, the auto bed leveling. I don't think people realize. You know, I've seen people do the thumb screws with some blue Loctite to just kind of keep it from moving, and that keeps it in place for a long time. I had a Creality CR10 years ago, and I just took the thumb screws off and I put acorn nuts on the bottom, just enough to keep it in place with a little bit of Loctite, and that was the biggest time saver ever to not have to level the bed constantly. But auto bed leveling is wonderful. Everyone that has a 3D printer, it's not a nice thing, it's not a convenience thing, it's a necessity. It just makes 3D printing so much more enjoyable. So,
Well, the thing I like about this bed leveler is it's not the Creality one where it's got the probe that touches the bed.
mhm,
It's got that sensor, magnetic sensor, so nothing
mhm,
touches the bed, nothing can
yep,
get bent.
yep.
And so I just haven't fixed that one. Then I decided, you know what, resin printing would be cool.
It is. When it works,
Get,
it's great.
got me a Hallett one. First one couldn't get it to work. Had to send it back. Wait on a refund because I got it from my parents for Christmas,
Mm,
and they didn't put it down as a gift. So I'd wait on a refund, then order another one. But I can get it to print pretty much every time. Now I do have stuff that doesn't quite stick to the build plate. I'm fighting with one of my Pokemon pieces right now, but then decided, you know what, I want something bigger. So this past Black Friday, I got me a Saturn II,
oh, wow.
and I was printing in the
Wow.
garage, and then brought it inside with the air purifier,
Mhm.
and that wasn't enough to keep the smell because my wife and stepdaughter are sensitive to it.
Smells rough.
So there
Smells rough.
goes there goes a grow tent with the fan, and my 3D printing sits there right by the window, my front window. You could see the AC vent, the where the AC stuff when you have a portable unit.
Mhm.
That's sitting right there, exhausting the fumes. No one complains about it. I don't use IPA to clean it no more. I use an ultrasonic cleaner heated with mean green. Don't use that on white resin. It leaves a green tinge. But you heat that up to 30, 40 degrees Celsius, throw your resin prints in there, let it run for 5, 10 minutes, pull them out. The supports just fall off with no marks.
I
Not
bought
much marks.
I bought an Anycubic, because I have a frozen Sonic Mini 8K. That's my resin printer, and I have a Prusa i3 Mark III. But I bought the Anycubic wash and cure station for mine, but before that, I actually was using an ultrasonic cleaner also, and I was just putting simple green in it, and it worked. I think I saw that. I think I saw Uncle Jesse do that. I think that's where I learned to do that. And he did a side by side test of the cleaning of getting the excess resin off with simple green versus with IPA, and he found that simple green was cheaper, was easier to get, and it doesn't have that horrible smell, and it works better. Overall, it just works better. It gives it a nice clean thing. And you don't get that weird, like, even when you use the lower water content alcohol, you always get those little white bits after it's washed, and they're not like wipe off white. It's almost like the resin burns when it reacts with the if it's slightly uncured, it reacts with the alcohol, starts to turn white. But
You're
I've had
leaving it in too long.
yeah, I've had really good results with this printer. Like this is one. This is one. This guy is probably about. It's hard to tell on webcam, but I think he's about inch and a half tall, 2 inches tall, and
Yeah.
the detail level. When people see this, they're like, "That's a 3D print." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why this shit's so cool."
What resin are you using?
So I have really so when I bought this printer, this is my third resin printer. It's the first one that actually worked. I had not the monoprice. I had an Elegoo Mars 2. Then I had a Mars 2 Pro, and neither one of them did I ever get a print out of. Literally, I had these printers, they never printed for me. So
Hmm.
I got this one, and when I bought this one, I was like, because this one was a brand new printer when I bought it. It had just come out. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this in completely in their ecosystem. I didn't want to screw around. So I got uh, this stuff. Ugh, some on the bottle. But this is their aqua resin. It is so good. Like as a resin, there's none of that gloppiness. Even when something like every once in a while, I mean, resin printing stuff fails. It's just part of the process with resin printing. You get a lot of print fails. Even when something fails and it sticks to the FEP, it comes right. I can get it right up. Like usually just a plastic scraper. I don't usually have to clean out the whole vat to get something off the bottom of the FEP. Like that's how nice this resin is. Plus the finish. It's got this really almost like a soft texture to it. It's just fantastic stuff, and it's configured in Chitubox already, so I don't have to like adjust anything. It was ready to go. This is as close to an appliance as I've had for a resin printer because I've had very little luck with them. Very, very little luck with them. But now it's like I love this thing. I just don't use it enough. I readily admit that like when you look at the quality difference, right? This is my Prusa i3 and this is my resin printer, and it's really, really hard to tell which is which because
Yeah.
the i3 is a phenomenal printer. So I might be a little bit biased, but I'm really a big Prusa fan. I always said that I would never buy a printer that wasn't Prusa, and then I bought this one. But
Well, that's kind of like the I use 3DRS. I've settled on 3DRS resin. They're light gray. It's an 8K resin.
Mhm.
Um, it does leave a little shiny spots after it's cleaned. People were complaining about supports being hard to remove. Throw them in a warm vat; they're easy to remove. You
Yeah,
know,
I think
but
I've never had that problem with any resin where the supports were hard to remove. I did have one that I just printed. I just printed something yesterday or the day before, and it was a Picky Peck from Pokemon, and it had very skinny, skinny, skinny legs. And as I was taking the support material off, if you touch those legs wrong, especially before you've like painted and put layers of paint on it to kind of glue it all together, it broke right off. Like I broke a leg off, I broke a toe off, so I had one left out of three. But I've really never had that problem with resin. I've had that problem a lot with PLA, but I rarely have that problem with resin.
yeah, I do a bunch of like that Leonardo I did just did on my P1P.
Hmm.
You can see some scarring on the lip and stuff I that using their tree supports. I haven't got it quite dialed in on the Michelangelo I'm currently printing. I'm moved the Z height up a little bit, and if it doesn't work this time, I'll go back to standard supports. But
Yeah.
my resin, I have no problem with the gray. I had some issues getting stuff like Matter Hackers resin. I never could get that to stick to my one build plate.
Weird.
Um, and I could get the a test print, but that was it. I
Hmm.
never could get it to stick, and that was what people when I asked online about it, people were saying about it. Don't waste your money. Uh, that 3DRS is like $45, $50, but it's for 1.5 kilograms. That's not for a kilogram.
Oh,
That's
okay, so
one and a half.
you get a little extra, yeah.
So, and it comes in a big bag. If you buy more, they give you a little bit of a discount.
Okay.
But and I just got that P1P working on companion cube. I've got the Bamboo Labs white running on my Prusa Mini to create the white pieces. Now ran the PETG off the P1P, and I had printed PETG once or twice and had issues on my ender.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in this one under a generic profile, and it printed. No problems whatsoever.
Isn't it wild? Like, so I've had I counted one. I've had 8 3D printers over the years, not counting the two that I have now. So 8 other than these two. And over the years, there were a lot of things that I just gave up on doing, like altogether. I gave up on, you know, one of the things I've learned with resin printing is that orientation is everything. These models will not adhere. The one thing about this printer that people actually complain about is that the build plate is textured. It's not smooth. Things weld themselves to the build plate on this printer, which is actually not a bad problem to have, because as long as you're printing the way you're supposed to with resin, which is off the base plate with some supports, it's actually really easy to get stuff off, and you're never going to damage your model, but you'll always get good adhesion. But I've learned, like, don't print models. The last one I did is the first model I've ever printed with the base of the model on the build plate. Usually they tell you up front, like, rotate it 45 degrees, do it in an angle so that when it comes up, it drains off the resin. You get better results that way. You know, punch holes in your resin. I have not punched a hole in anything I printed on this printer so far so that it would drain when you're doing. I don't do that. I know you're supposed to do that. I don't do that. But
Do
I've had
you hollow them out?
I don't even bother because I'm printing small stuff. This is what I'm printing on this printer, this size. It's not worth it hollowing it out. Like, what am I gonna gain? The most I'm gonna gain is a couple of drips out of the base of this print. But
If you don't hollow your models, there's
yeah,
no need to punch holes. The
right,
punching the holes
right.
in is because, like me, most of my models are pre-supported
Hmm.
because I get them from most of the stuff I print. I print a bunch of Dragon Busts and stuff. Those come from Photos
Hmm.
his his Patreon, um, and but they hollow them out.
Right.
If you leave uncured resin inside a hollow print,
Hmm.
over time it will crack that. The uncured resin will pull and crack your model, and you'll have resin all over
It
everything.
starts to swell, right? It starts to swell a little bit and break
Yep.
apart. So it's funny because I actually had one that I did do that I hollowed it out, but I forgot to put a drain hole and it printed fine. I'm like, all right, it's hollow. And my friend put it on the dashboard of his car, which, by the way, I didn't realize how non-temperature resistant. Yeah, so I didn't realize how non-temperature resistant resin prints were. I thought they would be more resilient. Well, let's just say they're not. It was he wasn't mad. He was like, "Nah, it was my fault." He goes, "I should have asked if I could put it in the car." And it was like he got the model from me in the summer, and it was like sitting on his Porsche. It was a Porsche Cayenne,
Oh,
and he had it sitting on the they so the texture of their dashboard, it's like a soft touch velour almost. It's not even like leather. It's a weird material. So of course it's not this smooth thing that you could just wipe off. The coup de grace, it's a lease. So he's got this white stain on the, and he, like I said, he wasn't mad. He's like, I should have asked you if I could put it there. So but it's resin printing has been my biggest frustration with 3D. I'm pretty good with 3D printing. Like, I understand that I'm not the greatest modeler. I can model stuff if I need to in Fusion 360 or in like Nomad Sculpt or one of those on the iPad. But man, resin printing has just been a nightmare for me. Honestly, the running joke was, I don't know why I keep doing this. I just like to torture myself. Just keep buying resin printers and not being able to print with them because the failure rate is so high, and I'm not used to that. My Prusa is an appliance. I can go in there right now, put a memory card with a file on it, hit go, come back in 8 hours. It's done, and it's perfect every time. that printer is a godsend for me because I make stuff 3D printed and sell it. But man, this thing, as much as I love it, failure rate's about 30% on it. Like that's why when I print small models on the build plate, I print 3 or 4 of them because it doesn't increase your time, but at least you have a higher likelihood of getting a part out of it. So,
See, I don't have that failure rate out of my resin printers. Like I said, I have one model that I kept losing the part, and
mhm,
I think I just need to go back and add some heavier supports.
mhm.
Uh, but that Saturn II, I have a Wham Bam Flex plate on it, so I don't have to
That's
do no
smart.
scraping. Pull it
Yeah.
off, clean the magnet with IPA, clean the base with IPA once it comes off, and put it back on. And the one of the things I like, my Howlett one, it doesn't have that, but I don't even pull the build plate off to scrape it. I just scrape it everything off with the build plate on
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and just put my hand up under it and toss it in the mean green and be done with it. But that's one of the things I like about those resin printers. I throw a file on it, print it. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But I can walk away, and I don't even. In fact, I've got one dragon bust on my Saturn II that is sitting there. I printed it. I think I printed it last weekend, and I still haven't pulled it off the printer. I came home. I came home yesterday and decided, okay, you know what? It made me some lunch. I started my Prusa printer with some more parts for the companion cube. I started. I'm doing. Um, I'm making diamond painting trays.
Oh,
Little
cool.
trays. I found the file on Thingiverse. My mom does diamond painting,
I
and
love
so
that stuff.
last weekend I started a holder that'll hold like 16 trays,
Mhm.
and started it. Left, went to work. During the week, I told my wife, "Hey, go over to my P1P and take the print off of the deal because once that bed cools down, things just fall
Yeah.
right off." And
Yeah.
she took all the paint. She goes, "All right, do I need to clean it with IPA?" Nah, don't worry about it. I've got a textured PEI sheet on it. And from my app, I went through
Start
reprint,
another one.
and it
Mhm.
printed another one. So when I came home, I had that sitting on there.
Yep.
Okay, now it's time to start printing the trays. So I've got 36 trays to print. I can fit 5 of them on the build plate at a time. I found out on these trays they're so thin, don't pull them off when it's warm because it warps the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I've been using generic PLA settings in Bamboo Studio,
Yep.
and I'm using Matter Hacker's MH Builds filament.
That's all by the way, that's the only filament I use.
I,
That's
I've been
everything.
using a bunch of GTS 3D. I've got some Silicon filament, DO3D. I've used Overture, but this is my first round. So I had my wife. We ordered the Rainbow Pack,
Mhm.
six things of filament, $110, free shipping, and they picked the colors. Got some nice colors, and so it's like, okay, here's 5 trays. Let's put this color on it. Here's another 5 trays. Let's do a different. So I've got between the holder and the trays, I've got all 6 colors of the tray of those MH builds. And instead of using the generic, which the generic will sit there and kind of slow the flow rate down and the speeds are a little bit less
Mhm.
because it's generic and bamboo filament is meant for high speeds. You could get some outside filament that's meant for high speeds as well. But I was just testing it, and sure enough, it prints great on the bamboo PLA settings standard.
I love it. That's awesome.
Well, let's see what sport mode and ludicrous does. Started another print of 5, and I turned it up to ludicrous. Now, what for those who aren't familiar with the bamboo platform, bamboo has four modes that you could go. You don't have to go into the slicer and deal with individual speed settings.
Mhm.
You print it. Standard is 100%. So it's
Mhm.
whatever speed settings they have set that they found works. Um, Silent is on 50%. So like you're printing a tall part, like my PETG, the corners, I printed them on silent. I got the light for it. You have to print the cover that goes
Mhm.
on the deal. It's thin enough that I found out that standard, when it gets up high, it moves it and it doesn't print right. So you got to print it on silent.
Oh, wow, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, that
Sport,
makes sense. Slows it down a little bit. Yeah, that
yeah,
does make
because
sense.
it's not moving it then and it
Right.
prints right.
Okay.
Sport mode is like 125% speed, and ludicrous is like 160% speed from their settings. Well, found out on the first try, had it on ludicrous. Okay, nah, too much under extrusion.
Mhm.
Put it to sport. Nah, still getting a bunch of under extrusion. So okay, we're good on standard. I was testing it. It wasn't
Mhm.
Bamboo Labs filament. They're meant for the higher speeds. So okay, but pretty much I've got a little bit of what I think is some bearing noise in it. I
Yeah.
put it in, and I think it's abnormal. So I think I'm going to start it to, but it's only in one spot of the print, and it wasn't every time it hit that spot going back and forth, but most of the time in that one spot it did it. But other than that, I need to get some of their anti vibration feet because I watch that desk moving when it's
Oh,
going
man.
on high speed.
I've seen so many YouTubers when the X1 Carbon came out, I saw so many YouTubers just pointing a camera at their desk with the X1 Carbon on it, and you just see the whole desk is just, like, twitching like crazy. That thing but, it's interesting because Core XY, which is the technology that the Bamboo Labs printers use, has been around forever, but it never really took off because it's expensive. You have multiple rods going, on the x-axis, multiple rods going on the y-axis, and then the bed goes up and down. They are very, very expensive to make, and the price of the Bamboo Labs printers does. I mean, it's worth it, but they are typically a little bit higher because they're using Core XY. But the one upside to Core XY is those printers fly. They are so fast. It's creepy. Like I know I can jack the speed up of my Prusa way faster than they set the settings at. I just don't because I want it to just be reliable. If it takes a little while longer, I'm fine with that. But man, it would be nice to have a print, like a good size print, not the stuff I typically print. Have a good size print that's done in, 2 hours. Like that would be nice for once.
Well, those trays, I'd put 5 of them on the build plate, and it only uses 45 grams, 46 grams of filament.
Isn't that wild?
So it
Yeah.
doesn't use much filament for those trays.
Hmm.
I'd have 5 of them on the build plate, 1 hour.
Oh, jeez. That's wild. You could just crank those out, and then what. So what they've done, I don't know if they were intending to do this or not, but I think what they've done is they've basically turned 3D printing users into essentially factories. Like you can mass produce stuff. Like you've probably seen it. I make the cutting board foot jig.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I love that thing, and it was one of my honestly, it's the first time I've ever. I know it's not my design. Every time I put it out there, I know it's not my design as far as the idea, but it is my design as far as the implementation of the idea. And every time I run off 6 of them, that's, 4 hours. And man, I would love to just have like I want to get the X1 Carbon just for printing those. Like take it, put it in my shop because I can leave it unattended and just let it just crank. Like just
Well,
bang.
you don't plan on printing in ABS, ASA, or any of that, do you?
Nah, it's all printing. It's all printing in
Okay.
PLA.
All you're doing is PLA. You don't need to spend the money on X1 Carbon.
Yeah, it's
Don't spend the money on it. Go get the it if you're not going to print the ABS,
well, I
the
might do P.
ASA.
I've been thinking about switching to PETG. So if somebody leaves it in their toolbox in their truck, it's not going to become a ball of plastic.
Not a problem. PETG prints just fine on the P1P. There's no need to get the X1 Carbon unless you're printing ABS, ASA, specialty filaments that require an enclosure in a really hot, hot printing environment. Go with PETG. I found the Inland Micro Centers brand PETG prints great under generic PETG settings.
I had a lot of luck with their PLA over the years, honestly. It's a surprisingly good filament for $20 a roll. It really
Yeah,
is. Like
yeah.
it's surprisingly good. I feel bad for anyone that doesn't have a Micro Center near them. By the way, Micro Center is like a candy store for geeks. It's wonderful, but
Well, you
yeah,
see
that's
the Bamboo Labs, all their stuff that comes on spools, all the Bamboo Lab spools are reusable. You
oh, that's
twist
nice.
them, they come apart.
And you can
And
thread it.
so
Oh,
you can go online and like it's like $27 for a roll of filament with spools. You go buy a refill, it's $25, so you're saving a
yeah.
few dollars, and you yank it, put the new spool on there, tighten it up, and you got it on a spool.
That gives me a thought because I was a member of, and I forgot that. Damn, it's been so long since I got anything from them because I just was overloaded on film and I had to stop it. But I was a member like it was basically Filament of the Month, and you would subscribe and you'd get. I think it was like called. I think it was called Filament Box. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And every month I would get a box of 5 samples. And man, that would have been nice to have those samples just in a spool like that. Just I know that there are 3D prints that you can make of spools and whatever, but just to have those sitting around, that would have been so convenient. Just thread it in there and put it up on the spool holder. But you got me thinking about the P1P now because I would love to get a P1P, for example, and just leave it there for PETG. Like that's because that's kind of where I mean I know the Prusa will do it. I don't know why I'm not just doing it with the printer I already have, but I'd kind of like to have both set up. You know,
Because you want a new toy. We
I
all
mean
need
to,
new toys.
to an extent. Well, so that's
But
where
you
the
know, the good thing about, and I don't know about your, bless you, I don't know about your the Prusa multi-print,
it's
multicolor
terrible.
print.
It's
I don't
terrible.
know anything about it. I like I say, I've got the mini. Um, but the AMS for the you can add it to the P1P,
Hmm.
and you can sit there and add it to the P1P. $350 is all that is. So if later on down the road you're like me, hey, later on down the road I am going to get it. It does use a bunch of filament, so you'll have to, you'll have a bunch of scrap. You'll have to have a bucket at the back to catch the extra filament, and you can do stuff like Uncle Jesse has something where you melt it into a mold to create something cool. Um,
I'm really enjoying how much he's doing out. That's a little outside the box. That dude. I would love to have him on the show. If anyone has a connection with Uncle Jesse that could get his attention for me, I would love to have him on this show because he is to me, he's the guy that's like doing the coolest stuff on the web with 3D printing right now.
have you tried touching base with him on
I
via email?
I have I don't know, like I think some of these people's email messages just don't go directly to them. I think they go like sometimes they get filtered through somebody and they just kind of get like, whatever, or they end up in junk mail or whatever. I've had people go, "Oh, I never got your message. It went to my agent," and they didn't. I've had that more than I'd like to admit,
Huh.
where I send somebody a message and they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't get my emails directly. They go through somebody, so they're getting pre-screened." But yeah,
Try sending him a message on Instagram.
I
You see
might.
what he's doing now, don't you?
What is he up to now?
That
Let's
life
see.
size Magneto. I
Yes,
think it's Magneto, isn't it?
it looks like. Well, it probably is because that's his favorite character. But
Yeah,
it sounds like what Dave did with Jimmy, because it looks like I saw the picture of it
yeah,
yesterday. It was like all these colored blocks
yeah,
of
yeah.
wild.
That's one of the things I want to do. Galactic Armory has a file. I think it's $10, maybe 15,
Mhm.
but it's Yoda, and you can
Ah,
print it as a mini file, as a regular size, or you could print it the 2 foot 2 inch life size.
that would
It's
be
cut
amazing.
up.
That
Now
would be
I have
amazing.
heard that you have to cut it up a little bit more to get it to fit on the bamboo, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Hmm. That would be fun to have one of those and then just really go balls to the wall painting it, like making it look really, really good. So there
Yeah,
was a guy. Do you follow on YouTube? There's a guy. His channel is called Mighty Jabba Collection. That's what it's called. He's a Star Wars, like a real Star Wars geek, old school Star Wars geek, and he's obsessed with Jabba the Hutt. So everything that's ever been produced in all of Star Wars history that has Jabba the Hutt, he has. So a couple of years ago, this was what got me into his channel. He started a project where he was going to make a life sized Jabba the Hutt 3D printed. and he was doing I forgot what filament company, but he managed to get a filament company to sponsor this thing, and he printed a life-size Job of the Hut. Like, he printed the whole damn thing. It was wild. I want to say it's 8 feet long, and he was just printing it. He was just printing it in pieces. And what's crazy is he was printing it in pieces on its edge. Like, you know how when you print a lithophane, you're not supposed to print it flat on the bed. You're supposed to print it on its edge with a raft. So
Yeah.
so that's how he printed all the pieces. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And he had failures, but for the most part, he did the whole thing and then glued it together. And he had Job of the Hut, life
You,
size, in his
you
basement.
know, you know what I would have to do if I were going to do that. I would have to have the throne he sat on, and I would have to have who was it that he had chained up right there in front of? You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
the
about
little
in that
guy, little guy.
scene?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
He
yeah.
had a scene where he had some in a collar chained up right in that, right by
Oh,
that throne. Yeah,
yes, yes.
I'd have to have that whole scene full life size.
Well, the good thing is you're a woodworker, so you can build the platform pretty easily. That would be cool. You could actually build a working trap door, so when somebody gets too close to him, you can pull the trap door and they'll fall underneath it. I didn't expect, it's really funny. Like, you kind of plan what you're going to talk about with the guest. Like, I don't really do a whole lot of show prep. That's kind of my jam. I like to just have a conversation. I never expected to be geeking out about 3D printing with you. I kind of expected to be talking about woodworking and pen making and, stuff like that. But
Well,
where did the 3D printing bug bite from? Because you're way more into it than somebody who's just making, pen parts, right? You clearly have an interest in it beyond just tinkering and screwing
well,
around with it. Like, you're doing more than that. Where does that come from?
it all started from that wanting to make pin blanks,
Hmm.
and then I got that Pokemon Patreon. I was a Star Wars 3D Patreon,
Hmm.
and I've dropped that one. I'm now Photosmint. It's just, I think part of it is I not only I leave the house Sundays usually about 4 in the afternoon Central
Hmm.
Time, sometimes earlier.
Hmm.
Go to work. I'm in the truck from Sunday through sometime Friday. It could be any time between 7 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night before I walk through that door.
Yeah.
Well, I have a second job. I work up here at the church on Saturdays. I'm usually up here unless I have something I have to set up for. I'm usually up here between 9 and 9:30 in the morning. And now, mind you, it's not like your typical job. Hey, you have to work these hours. You have to do this. I'm
Mm.
on understanding with the boss. Hey, you're paid 5 or 6 hours. If for some reason you need to take off, you're still paid that 5 or 6 hours. Just make up the time. You
Right.
know. And so I'm up here. I usually, if I need to go run an errand, I run an errand at lunchtime, pick up some lunch. I'm usually up here till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the evening, sometimes a little later, depends on what I've got going on, replacing lighting, tiles, clean up, set up, tear down, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, Sunday mornings, I'm back up here at 7 o'clock in the morning so I could open up for church and get cleaned up, get set up, and then I tear everything down. Then at the end of service, I'm stay till 12, 12:15, lock up. So I've got to have stuff that's quick to do.
Right.
So 3D printing, I put a file on the printer and print it. It's
Mhm.
like this morning, I get up, have my coffee. Well, I get my that Leonardo off, get my supports yanked, changed the filament on my prusa because I ran out of white filament. And it was sitting there beeping at me, and then I go through, put Michelangelo, get it sent over to the P1P. It's over 50% printing right now. While I'm up here working, I'll get home, pull it off, and it's nothing for me to tell wife, hey, that printer's going to run for 2 or 3 days because I threw a print on before I go to work on Sunday, and it'll be a 2 or 3 day because a lot of the prints I do especially when I had the ender running, I would blow it up as big as I could get it.
Sure.
I would blow it up till it's just barely gotten to where it just fits on the printer, and then print it. And that'll turn into a 2 3 day print sometimes. I don't care.
Okay,
You know,
what
what
else is
is it?
going on?
It's a way. It's I'm using filament.
Mhm.
Yeah, but hey, that's why I have a safe job so I can afford the filament. So I can halfway pay for my hobbies. You know, so that's one of the reasons I fell into turning was
Mhm.
because I could have a pin once I get the tube screwed in. Once I start turning a pin, 45 minutes an hour, I could have a pin turned, finished, and put together 45 minutes to an hour. So I'd come home after church and, do that. I'd come home and get something started on the lathe, whether it's a bowl or something. Now, mind you, I've since then gone from benchtop lathe to a Jet 1840, big standing lathe, which is
Big
heavy to
lathe.
move.
Yeah.
I just had to move it out the way to get my water heater replaced. Well, me and my bright ideas, I call up my same buddy I had the 3D printing pin blank.
Mhm.
Man, here's a couple files. I want to come over this Saturday and let's try something on your CNC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we go, he tries it on CNC. We can't quite get it without play. And then he texts me later, says, "Man, I had to do this. Got it done. There's no play. You cut it. Okay." $700 or so later, I've got a Fox Alien Masuda Pro. It's sitting on my right now. It's sitting on my table saw, and I've got a couple. I have now. I created a pin blank that had different size holes. So what I do is I'll go through on that one with an 1/8 inch bit. It'll take an hour, hour and a half or so, and I don't run it very fast. I
Mhm.
really don't care. That's one of the things. Same thing with 3D printing.
Right.
I throw it on it. I'll cut the female pockets out. Now it's an oversized pin blank. Pin blanks
Mhm.
are usually 3/4 by 3/4 by 5, 5 1/4.
Right.
This one will be an inch and a quarter, inch and a half by 3/4 inch tall, maybe a little more by 5 1/2.
Mhm.
Just to make sure I have enough room because I tried doing a 3/4 inch blank and it just moved the blank too much.
Right.
And I'll cut the female, then I'll put a 1/4 inch bit on it, cut the male side, glue them together, and you could do the same thing with that one as long as you don't have angles, cutting it on a table saw, then gluing together. But that's huge waste. Now I've got to cut them, I've got to glue them. Forget this. Go set it up on the CNC, print this file, walk away from it. I've got a 60-watt spindle on it, so I don't have dust protection on it. I don't have to wear hearing protection when I'm in the same room because I do everything in my garage, two
Mhm.
car garage. I have it at the front of the garage. I can go back and turn and still listen to my radio.
That's wild.
And so I've got that one. I did try creating one where I had the pockets were all the same size, they were evenly spaced, and I did everything with a 1/4 inch bit, and I wound up with a bunch of play. And I
Mm.
don't know why I haven't gone back to it, but I have my one complaint I've had off these blanks because I've sent them. I do pin swaps on Facebook as well.
Mhm.
So not only do I do the Cartesian digest swaps, which I've just started a surprise swap, make anything you want. If you want to make extras, then ship. The last one of these I did, I made a cabinet, little sanding station, told sandpaper, took half a sheet of 3/4 inch ply,
Oh, wow.
$100 to ship that thing. But the guy needed a cabinet. He had it hung and sent a picture before reveal date. And what's fun about these swaps is, you talk back and forth about a bunch of different things. Like, hey, I'm working on this other project, don't know how to get together. Someone on there will know how. Hey, try this, try this. Try this. We don't always talk about the swap. We'll
Right.
talk about what's going on, talk about this stuff here and all this other stuff, and you need help. Hey, they're there. They're going to help. And then reveal day. I don't know. You ever seen a bunch of grown men act like kids? This is a bunch of grown men acting like kids on Christmas Day. Hey, what'd you get? Because we all post and it's just full. So I've taken that. Another guy I worked with. I'm online on Facebook. Paul Gifford. He might be one you might be interested in getting on a podcast. He does a bunch of laser engraving. He's
Mhm.
got in fact, he's got a couple of 3D printers. hitting the X1 carbon with the AMS, he's talking about getting a second one. He does a bunch of tumblers and craft fairs. Well, we started a pin swap. And basically, the way these swaps work, and on Facebook, it's a group on Facebook. The way these swaps work, you have, okay, registration date is here. You have till here to send me the, all this information that I asked for to this email. Then, okay, progress picture date is here.
Mm-hmm.
Just send me a pic or something letting me know that you're working, you haven't forgotten about it. You're not going to leave us high and dry.
Mm-hmm.
My Craftition Digest people are a lot better than my Facebook people about sending those. And then after progress pics are in, if you don't send a progress pic, I drop you. If you don't send a progress pic in my Facebook group, I drop you and ban you from the group. You're no longer in it because I don't need to mess with you.
Right. Yeah.
You leave me high and dry, you're done. Sure. That's one of the good things about being an administrator of the group. But I will sit there and what I do, okay, I look at who's in it. Do I want to receive from any one particular person? I had one pin swap where, okay, I have this guy that's known for his segmenting work. So, yes, I chose him. And then after that, it's, okay, I put you a number and I do a random number generator. You're paired with them. You're paired with them. I send you their email. Not their email, but I send you their address. Here's who you're shipping to.
Oh.
I give you a ship by date, and it's usually not paired up. So if I had you as a recipient, you wouldn't have me as a recipient. You would have someone else.
Right. You wouldn't want you don't want people exchanging with each other because that's kind of weird.
Some of the pin swap groups, that's the way they want it done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried one like that, and the guy that ran it said, man, it's just a hassle, so he'd rather do it my way. So we do it this other way. And it's 6 one half dozen the other. But this way, if I do it this way, I can control it, and I know no one's going to drop out. Mm-hmm. Now, I have had once where someone didn't receive anything or someone dropped off after progress pics. So I told the guy that had me as a recipient, I told him, hey, drop it. Send yours to him. So I got nothing, but the other guy got 2 because the other guy wound up shipping. No big deal. It's just a pin, right? So I started, but you have that. Then you have that day for reveals where everyone just reveals and you get to scroll through. And some of this work is amazing. I have received some squares, some marking tools, and they're in handmade boxes. Some of them are dovetailed. Some of them have wood hinges on the box. I mean, just some lovely work.
I want to. So this year at Maker Camp, this year was my first year at Catskill Mountain Maker Camp, and Working Hands podcast every year they do the swap. They do a swap that they do. They do it every year. It's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And I was talking to Keith about it, and I was like, I really want to do this, but I just feel like I don't know. Like, I think the thing with swaps in me, like, I would love to do a swap. I think it would be fun. But part of me is like, my work, and this is just that nasty, horrible voice inside your head that we all have. And for some reason, I can usually ignore it, but in this case, I can't. I don't want to make something for that because I've seen what other people make for that, and I don't feel like my work measures up. And it's this really, really, and I know it. And he actually told me outright. He goes, "Yeah, it does, and you should be making something for it. People would be happy to get the kind of stuff you make." I don't know. I mean, whatever, one way or the other. But it was just like I can't get over my own insecurity in my work, which is funny because I have no problem selling it to customers. But I think swapping it with other makers is a very different ball game from making it for civilians. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And the only thing we ask in these swaps, do your best. Do something, challenge yourself. It doesn't have to be the best work. I had one swap I got. Guy had some issues, and he's like, man, I'm sorry, I wanted to do better work, but I had these issues, and I couldn't, And so he sent me a box, here's this, and it was just a bunch of stuff, and it's like, okay, all that stuff's still sitting in the box on the floor in my shop. No big deal. 95% of the time, the stuff I receive in these swaps may get used. They may
Hmm.
not. It may be something where I toss it up on my toolbox. Hey, great. Like I had a box when we did this last beer swap. I got the beer in a box he made, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do with this box? I said, on the kitchen table. I got the CNC, so now my CNC parts live in it. I had one swap where I got a lamp someone had made, and he has a ringmaster, and he made the lampshade.
Hmm.
Well, I have since then taken the lampshade off. I think it's still over there in my 3D printing area, but that's my life for my 3D printing stuff.
Okay.
But a lot of times, like I had one of them, I got a French rolling pin, and they sent me
Mm.
it's in one of I think it was in a Facebook group, not that one, but it might have been that. I don't know. But that one is, I need to smooth it out, saying it because he got a little wet raised grain. So he sent it out. It'll sit in the kitchen, but I got blank to make another one. Haven't made that one. A lot of my stuff I might use and I might not.
Hmm.
If a lot of some of the stuff I send out might get used, might not. We like the craftsmanship of everything.
Yeah, I think
So
I think see that's how I approach it. It's funny because I approach it that way, and I'm nervous about giving my own stuff to somebody else, but realistically, they probably approach it the same way. Also, they're looking at it going, "So this is the kind of stuff he makes." Like I have made. The funny thing is, I've had makers get my cutting boards, and I'm very proud of my cutting boards. Like I do think I do a very good job on them. I think they look great. I've seen, I've been making them now for wow, 4 years, 5 years, 5 years. I've been making them
yeah.
now for 5 years. I've never gotten someone send one back except for one person whose girlfriend accidentally put the cutting board in the dishwasher and it literally just exploded. But yeah, I guess I should just be more confident and suck it up. And I know Keith listens to the show, so he's probably thinking, "Yep, you should. You should totally just get over yourself, and it's okay. It's going to be okay." But I did see the caliber of the stuff that was there this year, and it was just like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's hard to hang with a group like this. Like, and I know that nobody's expecting everything to be just off the chain bangers type stuff. People do expect you to just do your best, as you said, do your best work. And I probably could just do my best work and do something really cool.
Well,
Maybe do one with the Maker Camp logo on it and put that up.
after after this, I will send you a link to the Craftesian Digest to the swap I'm running.
Hmm.
You can log in, you can sign up, and it'll get your feet wet. No one
Awesome.
expects perfection.
Hmm.
Last year for the barbecue swap, I don't remember everything I sent, but what I did, it's like, okay, I started to dip my toes into segmented turning.
Hmm.
So I
That's
got
beautiful.
two or three woods, segmented them together, put them together. Um, I want to say I left a little bit of hole in it, filled it with resin.
Hmm.
That way, because the bottom didn't quite meet together. And this way, if there's any issues in my glue up, the liquid diamonds is thin enough, and it's that it'll
It'll
solve
make
the
up.
issue.
It'll make up the gaps
So
basically.
I took this thing, put it on the lathe, turned it. Now, when I was hollowing it out, it wound up. I had some catches, so it wound up about 1.5 layers short from
Hmm.
what it was. But I hollowed it out, got it all nice, smooth, sanded. Well, up here at the church, I'm working on Saturdays, so I went to Michael's, bought me a little tumbler spinner,
Oh, perfect.
and bought me some of the amazing clear cast or whatever they put on the
Hmm.
tumblers,
Yep.
and I set up paper towels, set it up on a desk that I'm at right now, and I would come in, mix it in these little small cups, mix it, smooth it out, and over 2 weeks had it smoothed out, ready to go, and that was one of the things I shipped.
That's great.
I had another year I made out of wood filament. Turns out it almost printed the whole thing,
Wow.
but it clogged the nozzle at the very
That's tough.
top. But it wasn't enough to tell. So I think it was top layers. But what it was, I printed it real thin, and I had to have some support. So on the back, I put LJ Beer Swap, whatever year it was, and on the front, I had Texas cut out in it. the state of Texas, cut
Hmm.
out in the side of it. So what I did there, I put it in a. I wound up putting it. I want to say I put it in a. Put it in a PVC pipe or whatever. Put a plug in it. Poured resin, liquid diamonds resin in it. And I think I had to do it twice, and then had to find a way to stick it on the lathe.
Okay.
I wound up drilling some holes in the bottom of
Yep.
it. Didn't go quite all the way through, and didn't go quite all the way through. Hollowed it out, and that was my beer mug for 1 year.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
But
What
that's
I have to ask. I have to ask because now you've mentioned CNCs. You've mentioned 3D printers. You're doing all this stuff. The one thing you haven't mentioned, conspicuous by its absence, is a laser. Is that something you're looking into next, or is it something you down the road maybe want to pick one up? Or
I've had the bug periodically. I've looked at the Orchard lasers.
hmm
It's like didn't have the money at the time, and it's like I want to get one.
hmm
The problem with it is a laser isn't something, and especially since I don't use dust collection in my shop.
okay,
So you walk into my shop, and like when I had to clean up for the hot water heater, I can't tell you how much sawdust and chips I had all over the floor back there because I had never cleaned up back there. I let it all fall on the ground till it's 2 or 3 inches deep below my lathe, and and then I'll pick it up. But it allows for a cushion in case I drop stuff. It also
hmm
allows me to lose stuff. Um, but I don't have I've got so much sawdust. In fact, I showed a picture, a video, or something of my on a one of the Facebook groups for the CNC, the Fox Alien CNC, and they said you need dust collection on that. Why? Have you seen the floor of my shop? So anytime I'm in there with CA finish, I can't do anything. But the laser's not something I could walk away from. It's something
right?
you got to kind of watch, and you
Yeah, a
got to
little
kind of
bit.
make sure you want to be in the same room. Whereas that CNC's running, I'm in the house playing video games. Sometimes I'm in the shop doing something else, or sometimes like okay, time to eat. It's still running. I go inside, eat. I don't worry about it. It's
I'm not gonna lie though. I'm not gonna lie. My Glowforge. I'm just gonna tell you. There have been times. In fact, I did this yesterday, where I set something up to cut out of MDF. Started it cutting. It was like a 40-minute cut engrave. I was like, all right, I'm going to Dunkin' and get some coffee. And I literally left my shop entirely. Just let it run. Went to Dunkin', got coffee, came back. Everything was still running. But yeah, you're not supposed to do that. That is a
you see
really bad idea.
the difference between your shop and my shop.
Yeah,
I have a fire, I lose my house.
it's
You
true.
catch your shop on fire, you just lose your shop.
Yeah, true. True. Well, I might. I mean, it's in a $45 million building, so I mean, I might piss a couple of people off too.
Well,
But
but and being a commercial building, you have fire sprinklers, so it's
that
not
is
like it's
true.
going to catch.
That is true.
So,
Yes. Yes.
but I thought about getting. They do have things like fireballs,
hmm
and I forget what they're called, but they get hot and they explode the fire retardant all over.
Yeah. Those are old
But
school. Those are old school. Actually, those used to be those glass balls with the two side. It's basically two chambers, and when it breaks, the catalyst mixes with the accelerant or whatever, and they just whoosh. Those are cool. I always thought the old time fire extinguishers were really cool the way they work because
well,
now they're like scientific. Back then they were just like, well, this will put it out if you just throw it in the fire. Like,
Well, I don't think these what I'm talking about you can get off Amazon, but something like a laser or your 3D printers or
yeah,
something that you want to leave running that might catch fire,
hmm
you leave it somewhere right above it,
yeah,
and once that heat gets to it, it'll melt it or do whatever, and it dumps that retardant all over it,
good idea.
and it works without you being present. So it's like I told you when you ended your earlier because we make podcast.
hmm
I caught that when I was walking around up here at church. Oh no, he's not ending it. So it's like I want to make something. So okay, I got something 3D printed and I got something partially done, and it's still in the works, so I'm still going to send it to you. But I've started along with my 3D printing, and I was up here at the church one day, and preacher decided, you know what, I want to change the set, so we put a new set up there on stage, and he had his daughter come in. He had big old letters, and she had to hand paint all of them. This would be a good excuse to get an airbrush.
Yes.
So what do I have sitting at the house? I got an airbrush.
Very cool.
And I got my parents to get me a small compressor
Mm-hmm.
for it for Christmas. So before I got to P1P, I would airbrush right there. But I started the airbrush your deal, and then I bought some paints that weren't really mint, but I thought I had them. No, they kept clogging the gun.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten back to it. I need to get back to it. Stuff like that, the projects like that,
Mm-hmm.
I'll put aside and I'll get back to them eventually. It's kind of like I was talking all last year. I'm going to build an arcade cabinet. I'm going to build an arcade cabinet. I'm going to have it done for Christmas. Well, I went and I bought the plywood now. I didn't buy the 3/4 inch plywood. I bought something else, which is 3/4 inch cat or whatever, but it's treated.
Hmm.
It's wet. Now it's actually 3/4 of an inch thick. It's not thinner like plywood. It was cheaper than the plywood because I had to have like 4 or 5 sheets.
Yeah, you need a lot for a cab.
And so I had to have help unloading it and unloading it.
Yeah.
Bought a track saw, DeWalt track saw off a guy for $350. Came with 2 tracks, and it was
Damn.
a real good deal.
Yeah.
And it's an even better deal. I told him, man, I'll pay you $50 a month till I get paid off. He goes, okay, yeah, I'm not worried about it. In fact, I still need to pay him off because last time we tried to get together, he was off doing something else, and he doesn't have the online payment option. So, okay, I've got the money now to pay the last 70 I owe him. But I started it, got my stuff cut out, and I mean, this stuff is all warping, and it's like, okay. Well, I made the mistake of setting 2 pieces on my table saw, not thinking about it. The next week, came back, pulled them
Oh
off.
God, rust.
Had a small rust spot on my table saw I need to clean off now. But I've got the base of the cabinet together. Now you can see some of the stuff where the stuff doesn't quite line up. I'm not worried about that.
You're going to paint and fill all of it anyway.
I've got the hole cut out for the coin slot. It's not going to be it's an actual coin slot, but I'm not going to have it hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get a Pi, so last year I bought a monitor. I bought a small little square computer PC, and my buddy's like, okay, yeah, we could sit there, put your dick, because I bought a SD card with RetroPie with a bunch of games already loaded on it.
Oh, perfect.
So he says we can hook that up, set it up to where the PC will boot off of that instead of its Windows hardware. Mm-hmm. And I've got the buttons and everything. In fact, I took a vinyl and I cut out the
buttons.
Do what?
You get Sanwa buttons. Come on.
I don't know what I actually bought.
Oh man. Okay, so just so you know, and I'm not telling, there are very good knockoffs of Sanwa buttons out there, but Sanwa makes the best arcade buttons. Like if you're making a cab, they make the best buttons and sticks. The only thing is with their stuff, you always need to buy. There's a box that you have to buy that's an interface to hook it up to a computer. So all the little jumper wires, those go into this one central place, and then out of USB into your computer. But those Sanwa sticks and buttons, chef's kiss. And if you buy the light ones, they're even cooler.
I don't think I bought the Sanwa. The kit I bought had the 2 joysticks, all the buttons I needed, and it had those cards that you're talking about. It had 2 of them already in it.
Oh, that's perfect. You know what? That's better. Yeah, that's everything. There are some amazing knockoffs that you cannot tell the difference. So
yeah,
I've noticed that the ones that are too good to be true, because like the Sanwa buttons. The other thing with the Sanwa buttons are like $300 for a double set with six action buttons, an 8-way stick, a player 1, a player 2 button, and then the interface board. So they're not cheap. But some of the stuff out there is surprisingly good for the money too. It's kind of cool actually that you can hardware wise, you don't have to make a huge investment to do a really nice cabinet now.
Yeah. See, I wasn't going to spend that kind of money. This is a Christmas present. It's not, and so it was. I heard my parents talking a while back in the previous house. Yeah, we were looking at arcade cabinets, but they want 2-3 grand for them, and we just haven't
Yeah,
decided. So
yeah.
okay, someone I saw or somewhere I got plans from. I forget who it was. I want to say it was someone on Making It podcast, but don't quote me on that. Um,
Well,
but I had our.
Bob did do a cabinet. He's done a couple of cabinets
I
over
want to
the
say
years.
it's the guy that did. I want to say it was him because he did a. I've got a bar top arcade cabinet plans from him, but he had no. He had two different plans. He's got the Mortal Kombat. He's got the Mortal Kombat plans that he did, and then
Mhm.
another style. The
Have you
style that he had that had the doors that open on the side. He had the vinyl printed out in his family. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep, yep. You know who else does really nice ones? The 8-bit guy's brother. I can never remember what his channel is called. There's a guy, and he's a Texas guy. The 8-bit guy. He does old retro games and stuff. His brother. Oh man, it's killing me. I will By the time I edit this episode, I will have the channel name up on the screen for people. But he does amazing cabinets. Like he does the nicest cabinets I think I've ever seen anyone do. I really have to think of his name. I'm really annoyed that I forgot it. But he does it all. He does it all. He does it all by hand. Really, he only cuts out the panels that are small enough on his CNC. But everything else is done with templates by hand, and he does full on vinyl decals for the sides and lit marquees on the top and just
Well,
beautiful stuff. And he did a cocktail style, which is like wow, like I've never
yeah.
seen anyone build one of those because they're a pain in the butt to build. And he made one that was really really nice. So
Well, I sat there. I decided, I'm going to do this. I'm going to paint it, and you know what? It'd be nice to be able to put like the Galaga ship on it, be able to put Pac-Man on the side. I wasn't going to pay to have full vinyl set made up,
mhm.
and in fact, I went through. I designed the board the way I want it, and so I know where to cut the holes. I vinyl printed a covering for it with the holes, so I can go through with my spade bits and just drill there where the holes are. I went out and bought a Silhouette Cameo Pro, the
Ah,
24-inch one,
that's a big
and
mother.
I put a couple of I cut out a couple things, put on the back of my laptop, and I printed that out. And I just haven't used it a lot. I bought it mainly for that arcade cabinet. Well, since then, that arcade cabinet. Well, I'll get to it when I get to it, type of deal now,
Mhm.
because it's one of those. It's a bigger project, and it's no, we'll get to it eventually.
I found the guy, by the way. It's the Geek Pub on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
He for some reason he has gotten really, and in fact the cocktail one that I was just telling you about is it's two-part video series that he did. His videos, I mean, he doesn't make a lot of videos anymore, but man, his videos are so good. Like watching him do the builds of the stuff that he does is
Yeah,
freaking
yeah.
amazing. He's one of those guys, like, oh, they're worth the wait. They're all worth the wait. So why don't we kick over and do some things of the week, because I have a sneaking suspicion that you brought something good to the table this week for us.
I did, and my things of the week were going to be my Patreons, my printers and my Film is Folly and Photosmint. But
Mhm.
there is someone out there in the knife making community who just started another raffle for his daughter. His daughter has and I don't know what the eye condition is called, but it's something where she has to work harder and her brain would kind of stop her using that eye or something like that.
Oh wow.
So when she got older, she wouldn't be able to drive and stuff. And she needs therapy and surgery. And insurance has said, no, this is experimental or whatnot. This isn't, we're not covering it. So
Huh.
everything he sells on his website, all his knives and stuff, a bunch of it goes towards his daughter's therapy. Right now, if you go down on his website, it's got you can just Venmo him just money to help, or you can enter raffle. Unlimited raffle tickets is going to go on for 2 or 3 weeks. It's for Ellie's eye therapy, and what it is the winner of the raffle. It's got to be Canada or U.S. only.
Mhm.
The winner of the raffle is going to have your choice of one of two knives that he's made,
I
and then the other one gets a knife.
and I am looking at the knife that he is giving away for this prize. It is unbelievable. The Damascus pattern on that blade is absolutely
Well, he's got two.
gorgeous. Yeah,
And those, as I understand it, those are Baker Ford, but I don't know who makes the Damascus on that. But it's Hidden Rose Forge.com, correct?
yeah,
You're looking at it. And it's
yep.
Brian Hunt on Instagram. He did say, hey, if you want to get tickets, because right now, if you go click on the Ellie's deal, the only way to pay is credit card. If you want to do Venmo or another payment method, you can direct message him on Instagram, and he is very reachable. He will get back to you, and you can use Venmo or other payment methods.
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. This is yeah, hiddenroseforge.com. The if you go to the shop to get to the one that he's doing for this giveaway, if you do this, go to the shop and scroll down to the second row in the shop. It's a $10 item right there, and it just says donation for Ellie's eye therapy, and you can actually see the knife there. It's absolutely incredible. What a beautiful, beautiful blade. And there are two in the picture. Wow, that is everyone that listens that makes knives or deals with Damascus is going to want to see this. This is beautiful stuff.
Now, he did say, and you might have to get back and double check with him if
Mhm.
you wanted to just buy, you wanted to help support his daughter, but you didn't want to do a raffle. You wanted to say, hey, here's a couple $100, but I want a knife.
Mhm.
He's got a couple of knives on there. You see them on the website, 175, 225, or what, 275. Um, he said, and this was back when I talked to him last on January 1st. He said that 80% of all his sales were going towards the therapy.
Excellent. So even if
And
you're not into
so
the one he's giving away, you can just buy a knife and that'll support
at
the fund
at the
also.
time, if that's the way you want to go, I would message him on Instagram
Sure.
first and make sure that that's still the case. But I'm
Good.
sure it still is.
Absolutely fantastic. Yep, hiddenroseforge.com. Definitely go check that out. You mentioned earlier that you would set up your CNC and go inside and play video games. Well, my thing of the week this week is actually a video game. It's actually a video game because after months of holding on to it and debating whether I should open this damn thing or sell it, I decided to open my Xbox Series X. I've had it since, I'm not even joking, I've had it since June. And it fell into my lap. I mean, it was available. I had the money. I bought it. I'm like, worst case scenario, I'll sell it. Well, I held on to it a little too long. And now people are buying brand new ones. Um, this is a refurbed one. It's a Microsoft refurb. So it's a manufacturer refurb. It's not like a GameStop refurb.
Yeah.
So it's practically brand new. There's not a mark on this damn thing. I don't know why it's refurbed. I think it was probably an unopened customer return that they couldn't sell. But so I opened it up and I set it up and I was like, okay, guess what, dude? Now you need some games. So luckily this week, March 17th, we're recording this on March 18th. March 17th, WWE 2K23 came out. So that was one of the games. I pre-ordered that one on Thursday, downloaded it yesterday morning, and played the absolute hell out of it most of the morning, and then went about my business. Amazing game. That's not my thing of the week. My thing of the week is what I spent 4 hours Thursday night playing, and that is Hogwarts Legacy. Oh my god. I have never played a game like this in my life. This game, I mean, okay, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you need this game in your life. Like there's just no arguing. You need this game in your life. It's out for PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X, and I think it's out for the Xbox One also. This game's wild. It's like watching the movies. I could not believe I was getting goosebumps as I got sorted into my house, like watching my character get sorted and hearing them, hearing the conversation and being part of that world and walking through Hogwarts and learning how to cast spells and doing these little side quests while you're playing the game. It is an amazing, amazing. It's a masterpiece, this game. It's an absolute freaking masterpiece. It's like watching if somebody. I'll tell you what it's like. This is a perfect way to describe it. It's as if you commissioned somebody to make a CG version of a Harry Potter movie. That's what this game is. And I'm talking the gameplay and the cutscenes are almost indistinguishable. It's I was not prepared for this, and I picked when I set it up because since I have the Xbox Series X, you have an option for speed or quality, and I set it to quality. I was like, I'm pretty sure this system can handle and it does. There's no frame skipping. There's no weirdness. Even with a lot of people, like these giant open rooms in Hogwarts, tons and tons of NPCs walking around, and the game just never misses a beat. It's unfreaking believable. It's one of those games where it's like I don't know how anyone's going to top this. Like I just can't even imagine it being topped. So if you have a system that can play it, highly recommend Hogwarts Legacy. It's a great game to begin with, but it's worth it for the visuals. It's a hell of an impressive technical achievement. So that's definitely my thing of the week.
I've been telling my wife I'm going to move my Xbox One into the bedroom TV because I want to play. I want to get back into playing my Fallout 4, and I want to go get the Halo series. You're going to make me move it in and get Hogwarts.
Oh, dude, the hard.
I've been.
It's so good. It's so good.
I haven't played my Xbox One in years because I got to be home for that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a Switch, and I don't play it all the time. But when I get a game I like, I play it a lot.
You can
Like
take it
right
with you.
now,
That's the
I've
part
got
about it.
yeah. So when I'm sitting in a dock or sitting waiting on a load, I can sit there and play it. I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm over 90 hours into it, and I still haven't beat the final boss. In fact, I was in a big battle last night,
Mm-hmm.
and my stuff was off the printer. Okay, I want to get this other one up, so I go over there. And I'm sort of half. Well, of course, I died.
Of course. Of course. Oh man, I got I think my thing of the week a couple of weeks ago was Pokemon Violet. That's another game that's like it has issues. Okay, it technically, I think it was released before it was 100% ready. The issues have gotten slightly better. They've not fixed them. There are a lot of frame rates and a lot of weird clipping, characters walking through each other, and you're in the middle of a battle arena and you see the head of an NPC walking, under the floor, walking under you, like stuff like that, like weird stuff like that. And I know that that's just it doesn't affect the game. It just looks bad, like it's bad quality control. I get it, but it's still a great game. So I'm a big Switch guy. The only reason I opened the Xbox was I didn't want to wait till. So WWE 2K3 is not coming for the Switch. 2K Sports
No.
Racing is not, and Hogwarts Legacy is not coming till at least August, which means probably Christmas. So because they're gonna have to really nerf the hell out of that game to get it to run on the Switch. I love my Switch, but I also understand what it is. It's not the most powerful system in the world. So I'm just gonna have
Xenoblade Chronicles is worth playing. One
I
and two. I haven't played one. I played two and I played three. They're worth playing. But my stepdaughter's big I'm not real big on the Pokemon games. I played a one here and there. But my stepdaughter's the one that we got this one coming out. She pre-order it, and she's got most all of them for the Switch.
Pokemon Go has become an obsession for me again. I've been playing that on my phone constantly, and now I got my girlfriend playing it too, which is kind of cool. So I made her I 3D printed the first Pokemon she caught in the game was Picky Peck, and I 3D printed Picky Peck and hand painted it and sent it to her. Um, I gave it to her rather yesterday, so I was very proud of that. I was because I am. I mean, if you followed me for any length of time, you know I'm absolute trash at hand painting anything. But I'm trying to get better, and the only way you're going to get better at stuff like that, just keep doing it. Like, just keep doing it. Eventually, you'll get there. And I'm starting to feel like, oh, maybe I am getting there. Like maybe it's finally happening for me, where the skills I want to have are just my own commitment lacking. But it's not lacking? The amount of money that I get every month because my patrons are super duper generous. And who are those super generous people? They are Matthew Serio of Artigiano Serio, Big Al Schultz of New York Woodworks, Tori Decker from Tori Did It, Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More, Jake Drews of Make with Jake, Megan Chris from Onyx Designs Woodwork, Christian Neary of Warren Works, Jeff Stein, aka A Weird Guy, Kim and Garrett from Kim and Garrett Make It, Rory Langefeld of RLO Woodworks and DIY, Robert J. Keller, Rebecca Cole of Beck C Designs, Brian Arsenault, the Seven Hills Maker, Lars Coleman of Colorado Multicraft, Dave Bauer of Dave Bauer Art, Nick Birchtold of Birchtold Design Build, Jeremy Spees, Mike from Pixels to Prototype, Donald LeBlanc of Fun with Woodworking, Grant Alexander from the Clamp Podcast, Brad Harrison and Brad's Customs, and Billy Polton of Polton Projects. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at vincentmferrari.com/support, where you can pick your support level and I will bill you monthly because I like to take your money directly and not give 30% of it to Patreon or whatever they take now. So all of it goes back into, well, right now it goes into keeping me in my apartment, but eventually it's going to go back into the show. But I do appreciate any support that you give. It's the right time and it's always appreciated and it goes to good use. I promise. If you can't support the show financially, I understand that's not for everybody, but please, then if you can't, share the show, tell someone about it. Promote it wherever you can. And of course, if you haven't already, or even if you haven't, it's been a while, leave a review. Reviews definitely help. I haven't gotten that many reviews this year, and reviews are always good for podcasts because that's how people find me. And I have two more guests coming. I'm recording again Monday, and I'm probably going to be recording again Thursday or Friday next week. And one of those guests absolutely found me because the reviews are so good. So all of that is a tremendous help. And I appreciate whatever way in which you support the show. Like Kevin, who, as soon as I ended Because We Make, messaged me and told me he was bummed out about the podcast ending. And I was like, wow, that's another person I didn't even know listened. And that's really nice. So, but now you're back. Now I'm back and now you're on it. So there you go. So we've come full circle here.
Yep, I wake up on Wednesdays. Sometimes it's 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Where's this podcast?
Yep. 5 a.m. If 5 a.m. unless I'm dealing with some kind of insomnia or acid reflux, in which case it may be 2 in the morning. I have been known to do that. Like I'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh God, I'll have acid reflux, or I wake up and sometimes I just wake straight up. Like I'm wide awake. I'm like, all right, I might as well just post it now. So I'll kick it from 5 a.m. to like 2 a.m. New York time, which is what, 1 a.m. your time? Yeah, 1 a.m. your time.
Yep.
And it's like people wake up and they go, why are you staying up that late? I'm like, oh, I was up anyway. I figured I might as well just give you guys a treat for the people that are hanging on my every word. But Kevin, I really appreciate you coming on, giving me so much of your time on a Saturday. I know your weekends are very important to you, and I do appreciate you giving me so much of your time today. And why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet and keep up with what you are up to? Wow, that was a hard sentence. Keep up with what you're up to.
Well, it was good being on, good chatting with you. I'm at Keebler Woodworks on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do YouTube or anything like that, so that's about the only place. And I post when I make something and I think about it, but it's not regular, but it's starting to become more regular.
I think people are going to be. I mean, obviously your 3D printing stuff is fun, but I think people are going to be really blown away by your pens are absolutely gorgeous, dude. Like absolutely gorgeous work on the pens. Like I like, one of the things I like about your pens as opposed to a lot of people that make pens, especially in our space, you're not afraid to embrace color a little bit. And I like that your pens are more than just pretty wood, which there's nothing wrong with pretty wood pens, or even pretty metal pens. But I like that your pens have some personality to them. And I think that's really cool that you're kind of leaning into making stuff that's a little more upbeat, a little more colorful, let's say.
It's funny you say something about the color. In the knife swap I ran last year, I did a bunch of cheese knives,
Mm-hmm.
and I resin cast some of that. And we don't tell people who has who until it reveals. Someone posted, "Oh, I just got a box of colorful goodies." Everyone in the swap, well, we know who sent that.
Exactly. Well, it's weird because when you're doing any kind of woodwork, or any kind of woodwork now, if you're doing color stuff, you stand out because most people are very big on, you don't want to do anything but natural this, natural that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something to be said for like, oh, I'm just going to go against the grain, no pun intended, and do something very colorful and interesting. And your stuff is really beautiful. And obviously, watching you coming along on your 3D printing journey is fun too. Which like I said, I didn't expect to be talking about 3D printing as much, but I'm perfectly happy to because I love 3D printing. It's one of my favorite things. So it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming on Saturday. I really appreciate you accommodating my schedule because I have a hard out at 2 p.m. and I really, really appreciate you being flexible with that. So thank you for everything. And thanks for being a buddy. I really appreciate it. He sent me, and maybe I'll throw the link in the show notes. He sent me a song. He sent me a song a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, this song just, man, if you need a song that's going to kick your ass and get you going, this song is going to kick your ass and get you going. Like, it's a powerful motivation song if you like country music, which I do. So there you go. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I will be back again next week. I have 2 guests lined up for next week. One of them you'll hear the following week, and one of them you'll hear the week after that. So we got plenty of guest goodness coming up in the coming weeks, and I look forward to sharing that with you. Till then, have a great week, everybody.